Tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the seven seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog John Martin as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog John Martin and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Three Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with your host here, the old salty dog, John Martin, and, of course, the captain of our pirate ship, none other than Ted Yoho. Good morning, Ted. How are you?
Good morning, John. Good morning, everybody, on this great Friday day, and getting ready for a weekend to watch the Gators play.
Yeah, hopefully they'll be able to beat them old Bulldogs. But, of course, today is Halloween. And happy Halloween out there to everybody. And I don't know if we got this picture pulled up, but I thought it was kind of cute. I don't know how well people can see it, but basically it's a Halloween support group. And my favorite one is the mummy saying, I just need a place to unwind. And, of course, the Dracula saying, people are driving me batty. And all that. I think the witch says something
there,
like
John.
Falling off the handle or whatever. But happy Halloween to everybody. It's a pretty interesting time. Yeah, so before we get into the, as I call it, the meat and potatoes of the show, there was a story that kind of broke late yesterday afternoon, early evening, that I want to touch base on because we've talked about it before, and it's really, I mean, this is scary. In Indiana, I don't know which, it might have been that turnpike they got there, but on a major highway that just across the Illinois border, they did a sting operation yesterday, Ted. And my numbers might not be 100% right, but they're pretty close. They found a total of like 225 people driving illegally, most of which were illegal aliens. But they found like 120 or 25 commercial truck drivers that were driving illegally, pretty much all of them illegal aliens as well. And I tell you, man, that is so scary on so many, because we may or may not be a victim of crime, but all of us literally put our lives on the line and our families and all that every time we get on the highway. Because like when I know you've been traveling a lot, Ted, and when I get out of here this morning, I'm driving to Tampa to go fishing down the interstate surrounded by trucks. This is just inexcusable for this to be happening, and it shows just how much work there is to do to turn things around in this country. But I just had to bring that up because it scares the heck out of me, Ted.
That's just one state and one stop. And so you can imagine how many others around the country are just like that. And this is something that really needs to be looked into. You know, no wonder you see so many billboards with attorneys saying big truck lawyers. You know, if these trucking agencies are doing this and hiring these people knowingly, you know, it just drives the cost of everything up, plus puts a lot of people in jeopardy. I mean, you know, we've had these last two with the Indian illegal immigrants that were here that shouldn't have been driving. Neither one of them could speak English. And there was a lot of people killed from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, if you get in a wreck with one of these big trucks, you hope that you need a lawyer because you might need an undertaker, which is, you know, instead of a lawyer.
Yeah, we've got a saying in veterinary medicine, with a big dog, little dog, the big dog always wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to mention, I got a friend of mine that she's been on my previous show. She's got a pretty big following. His name is Sabine Durden. I think she's living in Texas now. But like, she was a legal migrant from Germany, been here many, many years, citizen. But her son, who was literally studying to become a police officer out in California when they lived, he was killed about a decade ago by an illegal immigrant drunk driver that had been charged 3 or 4 times with DUI, had been deported 3 or 4 times, and this, like I say, about a decade ago, and still came back across the border and killed her son. There is no way to make an amends for that. And here's the thing I'll say, and I'll pass it on to you, Ted, that people talk about illegal immigrants are committing crime and you can't prevent crime. any crime committed by an illegal immigrant, and I'm not trying to pick on them, just the fact is one crime that absolutely could have been prevented because they shouldn't have been here to start with, especially if they've been like in that case I was just talking about, multiple times, multiple DUIs, and that's happening all over the country.
Well, we've seen that over and over again. I mean, I think we all have personal stories where we talk about a person here illegally and they cause a crime, whether it's a vehicular homicide or any just a wreck. I've got family members that has happened to, and this goes back to securing the borders. You can't have a secure nation if you have open borders. And why the left and the liberals want to go after Trump so bad on this, you can understand because it breaks down America, and that's what they're after. That's on their agenda. But if we're going to have a constitutional republic and follow the rule of law, we have to crack down on this. And I think this is a wake up call for all these other states doing this. We saw that, I forget what state he was, but he worked at DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, and I think it might have been in California. And he was selling commercial, all kinds of licenses, just driver's license, commercial truck license. And he was making hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this. And he was doing like 300 a week, I think it was, when the average was 20. And these things need to be brought down. These people need to be with stiff jail sentences and fines.
Absolutely. Well, we had the case up there in New York just recently where they stopped the guy who was illegal driving that had been issued a license from the state of New York, and literally on the license, you can't make this stuff up, said no name given. That was his name on the driver's license, no name given. I mean,
I missed that
Lord,
one.
Man.
Yeah, I mean,
that was
come on.
literally the name on it, Ted. No name given was his name.
Well, no name given was his name. You can't. But see, this is where AI would be good because it would pick up this stuff.
Yep.
To put in that kind of stuff and bypass that. And that's a scary thing about AI. And I know we're going to talk about that later on. But, again, Trump is doing what needs to be done. It may be ugly how he's doing it, but it needs.
Yeah, you're cutting it in and out a bit, Ted, as far as
the aftermath of that will be people will realize that we have got to follow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's happening, but your audio's cutting out in and out, Ted. But yeah, and that to me, it just shows how big a job that Donald Trump has been left after the Biden administration and even ones before President Trump ever came to office. But I want to talk a little bit now. We'll move on about Donald Trump here. Donald Trump, and I created this headline myself, is Donald Trump now truly the leader of the free world? Because the president has been labeled that in the past, leader of the free world. And it's been a kind of, hit and miss depending on. But I think Donald Trump, after this trip that he just went on and came back from, could literally be labeled the leader of the free world. He's certainly being treated that way everywhere he goes.
He sure is. And he's getting kudos wherever he goes. And a lot of that goes to his personality. Can you guys hear me okay?
I hear you now. Fine. Yes.
His personality, because he is so anybody ever president, he's brash, he's bold, narcissistic, and he's willing just to say things that gets people attention, and so they really don't know how to respond to him other than accolades, and they pay attention to him and they take him cautiously because they saw what he did with Iran. They see what he's doing in Venezuela, see what he's done around the United States, cracking down on the illegal immigrant problem we had in this country. And so they're taking them seriously, and I think they're welcoming them, especially in South Korea and Japan, where he just went to. And, they've got so much conflict getting ready to happen. Yeah, it's good to see that.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about how they're treating him in Korea over there. But this is something we're going to show a video in just a second But I say TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, has really hit stage 4 critical right now, because from the White House, being torn down, and Trump ballroom and all, we talked about that last week. By the way, if you haven't watched our show before, first of all, welcome. But we're on live every Monday and Friday. But on our Friday show, we talked about that. But Trump is driving them crazy, because he's still trolling them, as I call it, with the idea of a third term. They just are freaking out about that, even though he came out and said, "Oh, I would do it, but that'd be too cute," and all that. I mean, he's not going to do that. I can't imagine doing that, although he probably would get elected. But they're trolling. But now you got, this video is going to show it. Now you have, in my opinion, leaders, in this case, I guess the prime minister of South Korea, literally trolling. You can make a case that he's trolling the left with this. So we'll play this video, and I think you'll pick up on what I mean. Check this out, Ted. This is unreal.
President Lee Jae-myung to President Trump. We present this gold crown to you on this joyous occasion of your state visit to Gyeongju, because it symbolizes the spirit of Shilla, which brought peace to the Korean peninsula for the first time, and the opening of the golden age of the Korea-U.S. alliance.
한국과 미국 간의 새로운 시대를 위해
To new trust and companionship between Korea and the United States.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
여러분 대단히 감사합니다.
Next is a gift from President Lee Jae-myung to President Trump. We present.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got Ted still on audio, but we were having trouble with his audio, so we went to picture, which is unfortunate, because Ted you're such a handsome man, Ted.
Hey,
but
appreciate it.
I call it trolling
camera.
because, remember, was it just like a week and a half ago we had the No Kings Day, and now South Korean Prime Minister gives Trump the crown. You know what I want to see, Ted? And I know you'll probably say no way, but I would love to see Donald Trump literally wear this crown at the next State of the Union address. That would just end up melting. He
just might do that.
They would melt, Ted.
They really would, and with a robe and a scepter.
Yeah.
With that, they would go bat dung crazy.
They'd be like that wicked witch going, "I'm melting."
They really would.
It would be.
But
hilarious.
You know what?
But
we need around the world. There's just so many hotspots going on around the world. So they're going to shoot Russian planes down if they incur into their airspace. So there's flashpoints coming, and there's flashpoints coming in this country. And I know we're going to talk about Zohran Madani probably a little bit, but this is a mistake. If New York goes down this road, with the things that guy has said, it's going to be a huge mistake, and you're going to see a mass exodus out of there. It happened with COVID. They came to Florida, their conservative states, but it's not going to be anything like what you're going to see when Madani gets elected.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned Madani, I don't know if you saw the latest. I don't have the video to pull up, but the latest thing that came out, I guess it was maybe a couple of years ago, when he was talking at one of these socialist, democratic socialist, basically communists, whatever you want to call them. He came out and said that whenever the New York City police are arresting you and they have their boot on your neck, it is really the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, that has their boot on your neck. So he basically said that the New York City police officers first of all put a boot on your neck, but they basically are working for the Jews and the Israeli government. That's what he literally said, Ted.
Well, you know what? Go back to Obama when the Horizon oil spill in the Gulf. Here he is, the leader of America. You've got a major environmental catastrophe. You've got an oil company. They're well broke open at the bottom of the ocean, or bottom of the Gulf of America. And what does he say? It was BP. Instead of saying, "Hey, what resource do you need? We can help you. The United States government here is to help you. We'll investigate the cause and liability secondarily." But he goes, "We're going to put a boot on their throat." That's what I mean. That just shows you who these people are, and Madani, to reference that, I think it's interesting. Obama's language.
Yeah, well, Obama is clearly supporting him, and Friday, last this past Friday, or maybe no, it was Monday. I'm sorry, this past Monday, Hakeem Jeffries finally came out and endorsed Madami, which I thought was kind of interesting that he literally waited till the day before early voting started to do it, which tells me that they're worried about it. They're so calculating about it, and it's all about grabbing power. They don't really care, like the chairman of the Democratic Party, Martin, said, no kin to me, that
Yeah.
about Mandami. We got a big tent. We want everybody in it. All they want is power. They don't care who comes in the tent. They would take literally the devil himself if they thought it could get back to power. Is there any doubt about that?
No, no doubt at all. I mean that's pretty self-evident. And I mean, all you have to do is go back to the last administration, the Biden administration. They took advantage of Biden as elder abuse. And then you look at what the Justice Department did, and now that it's being investigated, the Democrats are calling foul. This is foul. How dare the Republicans? They've weaponized the Justice Department and government. But it's been them that has done it, and we're just responding to that on the conservative side. So, you know, wake up, New York. You've got a major decision to make here.
Well, you mentioned about Putin earlier, and there was something came out on President Trump's trip. I guess he put it on Truth Social, and then was kind of asked about it literally while he was flying over to Malaysia. Was his first stop. But beyond all the deals that Trump made, which were fantastic, there was a little piece of news that came out that troubles me a little bit. I'm concerned about it. And I know that Donald Trump often says things to get a reaction and to, strengthen his hand. But he mentioned resuming nuclear testing, that the United States do it again. And, that could signal an escalation. I understand where his logic is, that other people are either doing it overtly or covertly, and we don't need to fall behind the times. But just broaching that conversation shakes me just a little bit, especially considering Putin's threats and stuff like that, and the escalation that appears to be happening over there. What are your thoughts about that, Ted?
I think that's, I think like you, I hope it's just bluster. There's no need for us to be testing nuclear weapons. I mean, we've tested them. We know the destructive power of them. We know they work. If you had new technology that you wanted to test, maybe do that. But I just don't see that, because you're exactly right. If we do that, well, then Russia says we can do that. And then you've got Pakistan and India, and of course, Kim Jong-un up there will be doing. Iran will, that gives them the right to do it, and I just think it's the wrong thing to do. And I think there's a better way to lead the free world than to start nuclear testing, because what you're doing is, I know he wants to do it to show his might, the might of the United States, but you're taunting another adversary like Russia, and they have more nukes than we do. When you look at the total stockpile, the numbers were close, but I think they got us beat by about 200. And then China is going to do the thing, and it's just, I don't think we need that. We need diplomacy, and we need to work on staying away from conflicts. And we hope Trump does that. Let's work on trade, and let's work on trading between nations and building countries and making them better for the next generation. This is a destructive way to go. So I disagree with him if he wants to test nuclear weapons. I think we ought to do an inventory and fix up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like you. I hope he's just kind of, blustering a little bit, to say. But I heard a pundit say something that I've not verified this, but it sounds true to me, that in this conversation, said that, another thing about the United States doing nuclear testing again, it would actually theoretically give advantage to other countries if they started testing, because we've done so much testing, hundreds of it, that our knowledge of nuclear capability far exceeds everyone else already. And
Right.
I thought that was an interesting point. Like I say, I can't really verify that, but it has a ring of truth to it to me.
Well, it does. It's like playing poker. You don't want to show your hand. Let people worry about what you might do or what you might have. Don't show them. And I think that's the best way to keep people in check. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about AI. And Ted, I know you brought this article to my attention, but you were going to talk about AI and a threat, if you will, that probably is not on most people's radar screen. So please support our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, we'd really appreciate that. Look at the tagline. It says call Freddie or contact Freddie and become a sponsor to show. Of course, like what we're doing, share what we're doing far and wide. Take us to break, Ted.
John, I look forward to having that conversation. We appreciate everybody that tunes in and sponsors. We'll see you in a minute.
All right, we'll be right back.
Although the owner of Lewis Oil Company maintains she is 29, Lewis Oil turns 60 years old in June. Chevron would like to recognize the North Florida second-generation family-owned business, celebrating its growth and staying power. Lewis Oil Company maintains significant on-hand supplies, strategically located fuel depots, a delivery fleet, on-site service, fuel card locks, and convenience stores. Lewis Oil Company understands its responsibility in the local economy by providing service and delivery on demand and in crisis. As a first responder for 18 Florida counties and the Southeast from Texas to Virginia, we are proud of this rare accomplishment. Lewis Oil delivers.
This is Ward Scott, and I want to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. The Ward Scott Files premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care.
Melvin Law, the only official injury partner of the Florida Gators.
The Ward Scott Files Gold sponsors are Lewis Oil Company,
Shoot GTR,
On the Spot Dry Cleaners, R&R Construction, and Style Cuts. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, www.wardscottfiles.com, and click on the Advertise Here banner on the right side of the page, or call my friend Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the Ward Scott Files. And remember, if you like the show, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
Or that very much surprises me that you've never been tased.
You can't handle the truth.
All bees poop.
A warthog. He's going to come up the steps. Here he comes. Oh my goodness, and he's huge. Hello, boy. I wonder if we can pet him. Hi, boy.
Can we touch him? No, don't.
Help me! Help! Help!
And we're back with really great news. It looks like Ted might be able to get his video on with us now. So
I changed locations.
Ted, it's fantastic news. We get to see your smiling, manly face, man. Toxic masculinity, Ted.
I even shaved for you this morning. No, I mean, we were talking about the nuclear weapons, and I appreciate that. We were talking about the nuclear weapons, and I understand the bluster and the threat of doing that, but I just, from an American standpoint and a citizen, a lone voice of Ted, I would rather not see us do that. I would rather flex my muscles somewhere else or some other way. And I think through diplomacy, you can do that. And, the way we can do that is build our own stockpile of rare earth minerals, make our stockpile of pharmaceuticals dependent on Americans, no other country. And if you do that, you've got leverage. And we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, well, King Trump, because he's got a crown now, so I will call him a king. People know what I mean. King Trump now, if you didn't see the top of the show, check it out. Got a crown. Well, he's working on, he's got mineral agreements signed with everybody now and did some deals with China. So it sounds like we're on the right track. But we're going to move to a story that, Ted, you brought to my attention. This comes from, the source is news.gab.AI. I'm not familiar with them, but it's an interesting story. I'll read the title and then I'll turn it over to you, Ted. It says, researchers expose systematic anti-white, anti-Christian bias in top AI models. So, Ted, what made you want to talk about this story, and what are your initial thoughts on it? And then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of it.
I guess the big thing is, I've gotten more involved with AI. I'm using it more. And so I read more about it. And what you're seeing is AI is popping up everywhere, whether you want to use it or not. I use an iPad a lot and I can touch on a word to find out the definition. Well, I touch on it now and I get this AI model coming up, and it's like something I've never seen before. If I write something, there's an AI model comes up and wants to give me a summary. And I'm like, I didn't ask for this. So this is embedded in society and it's just in the infancy. It's going to be a lot more. And, when I saw this article, it reminded me of what Elon Musk said. He goes, where AI is going, it terrifies me. And he said that 2 or 3 times in the interview he was doing. And then I come across this article. Researchers expose systemic anti-white, anti-Christian bias in top AI models. And the source of this is gab.ai. So the source is a model that stands alone as the only platform creating AI grounded in right wing and Christian values. So they're a little biased, I'll say that. But when they start going through this, it was saying how these other AI models start breaking people down into demographics, and they look at Muslims like 5 to 6 times more favorable than whites. And they look at Christians less favorable than any other religion. Even atheists score higher than them in their models. And the importance of this, John, is as these AI systems, they're just not an academic exercise. They're being integrated into the military planning, legal decisions making, healthcare prioritizations, educational content, and search engines. So if you look at America, we're 340 to 350 million people. There's roughly 8 billion people on the planet. So we're about 3.5% of the world's population. And it would make me think that the programmers were 3 to 3.5% of the programmers compared to the rest of the world. So if you have programmers coming from other nations that don't have the Western values or ideologies that we know, they're going to program according to them. And I know they've got parameters they've got to program to, but I think you're going to see a slant. And we've seen this when you look at some of these other models, they're slanted against Western ideologies. And of course, this article brings this out. And I can post this to the website so people can see this. But it's an interesting article, and it's researchers expose systemic anti-white, anti-Christian bias in top AI models. And again, the news source is news@gab.ai.
Yeah, well, Ted, I wanted to just say this because you mentioned that they're, quote, they even say that they're, quote, right wing and all that. And people may be uncomfortable about this topic. But one thing I believe is that we've got to just talk openly and frank. Hatred and all of that kind of stuff lives in the shadows. It's more dangerous in the shadows because we got people advocating all kind of insanity now. But I think we just have to openly talk about racial issues and stuff like that. Just flat out in the open, the way I look at it, instead of being clandestine. We shouldn't be afraid to really talk about anything. And I think that'll actually bring us closer together. But you talked about these various studies. So I wanted to bring this up because, it says here what the research found, this is from the article, was that every major AI model consistently devalues white lives while elevating every other racial group.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want some proof of this, it happened a couple of months ago. You may remember this. Google literally, you tape into their I forgot what it was called now, but a certain AI deal, and do a search, and it literally gave you historical figures that were, in this case, for instance, a black George Washington. Check this out. I think there he is. I mean, I don't really have a problem with people talking about all kind of different, because everybody contributed to the founding of this nation. Clearly, slavery was a bedrock of some aspects of this nation and a total injustice. No denying that. But to make it look like George Washington was a black man is a disservice not only to him, but in my opinion, Ted, it's a disservice to blacks who suffered through slavery to imply that they had some kind of leadership role in the United States of America, which was not true. And it should have been true, but it's not true.
Well, and it's so easy to rewrite history with these models because they do it right now. I mean, you put in what you want and they can change it right now. And this is something we all need to be aware of and cognizant of, and demand that these AI models represent, I'm going to say, the values like American values, what we believe in this country, but to minimize Christian values and put atheists above that, where's that lead to us in 5 years from now if these models build on that? And that's the power of AI. And, we're not even in the quantum computing yet. We're approaching that, but they can change things right now forevermore if it's in the wrong hands. And this is a scary thing. And, you've got that picture up there, and I agree with you. I mean, is that the history that we're going to promote from here on out?
Yeah, and like I say, to me, it's a hate or a dishonest towards black people too, because to put them up there, I mean, like for instance, Frederick Douglass was a great American during the time of the Civil War, and a black American, and was a Republican and all that. And of course, they tore his statue down too. It shows the ignorance of what they were doing. I have no problem, and we should elevate people like Frederick Douglass. But even he, I think, would be offended if he was shown as president of the United States, because he wasn't able to do that. Would he have been a capable person? No question about that. He was in the White House meeting with Abraham Lincoln. No question Frederick Douglass was qualified to be a president of the United States. But to insinuate that a black person could rise to president back then, to me, downplays the circumstances of what they were going through.
It really does. And the thing that people cheer around is human dignity and how they overcome. This is true in life. People go through dreams, struggle, victory. Dream, struggle, victory. You have a dream. I want to go to college. I want to do this. I want to, whatever it is. Once you make that dream as a goal, then you have to struggle through the fight to get there. But then once you get there, it's the victory. That's where your dignity comes from. We've experienced, I know you have, and somebody that comes along and fights to get where they're at. The worst thing to do is, like, you got this picture of a black George Washington. The guy like Frederick Douglass, he fought against all odds to become one of the most successful orators. He became a millionaire. I think he married a white woman, and he did all this during slavery. And so to say, well, we're going to change an AI model and just put him there and make it easy, it takes away his personal dignity and fight and struggle and story, which you can't pass that on to the next generation if you AI make that. But if you do it physically, and people can look at the example, say, man, if that guy can do that, I can do that. And that's the thing that AI can't do. But that's the realm we're going into, and it's an experimental realm in human history, I guess, because we've never had this. So we're going to have to tread cautiously. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and absolutely. And I tell you what, I got I'm going to pull up a picture of this. I think it was Gemini program that they had with Google, but don't quote me on that. But even crazier, this one to me is even crazier, because that same program created a black Nazi. And I find that extremely offensive because the one thing about it, they throw out the word Nazi and Hitler and all that way, way too much. But to imply that a black man would be a Nazi is a total disgrace to black Americans, to anybody who wasn't a Nazi, because the Nazis absolutely they didn't get their chance really except in North Africa. They would have wiped out every black person or enslaved them on the planet. There's just no doubt about it. So to imply
China would do the
that a
same
black
thing.
man would be a Nazi should be extremely offensive to black people, I think.
Well, it's interesting. You brought that up. Nazis weren't communists; they were socialists. But you look at China; they're communists. You know who else is a communist and he's black? Is Van Jones. He says he's a communist, and I don't think I would want to be associated with anything with communism. Especially, I don't want to say especially being a black guy, but anybody. I mean, any race. It's just not a good way to go. And
if you want to go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, but I mean, for AI to come out and do this.
On top of that I find offensive, and I don't pretend to speak for black people, but I would hope they would find this offensive. I would think they would. To put that black person as a Nazi, when you go back to actually what happened during World War II, African Americans played a key role in the defeat of the Nazis because there was widespread prejudice. There's no doubt. But a lot of black people, first of all, were in support of the troops. They worked behind the lines. But late in the war, when we were short of pilots, it was black Tuskegee airmen that flew air raids into Germany and actually were very key in liberating or cutting off the supply line of Jewish people to the concentration camps. The Tuskegee Airmen played a very vital role
towards
the tail end of the war when we were really short of qualified pilots. They came up. So to me, you dishonor their great memory. And we probably don't talk about them enough, but you dishonor their great memory by implying that a black man would be a Nazi when it's absolutely the reverse.
Right. Well, this is the kind of
about that, Ted. You can tell.
I can tell. This is the kind of stuff that the Democrats will embrace and use it to their benefit. You were talking about Ken Martin, not your relative, of the Democratic Party. The head of the Democratic Party wants to bring everybody in, and it's all about power. They don't care where they came from or where they're heading. I think is more important when you look at the Democrat socialists today. These people are not they're not doing good for America. They're tearing it down, and they're the antithesis of what America stands for, and they want to tear that down. And Zohran Madani, I mean, he's outpaced what's her name, AOC, and Bernie Sanders in the Democratic Party. I mean, he is going to be their poster child. And he's charismatic, and so was Obama. And you know what a disaster that was. We're still suffering with Obamacare all these years, and we're finding out, the American people are finding out what we try to tell them when we try to repeal it all those times. It doesn't work, and it's too expensive.
Yeah, well, I love the part about the name, the actual name of the bill, Affordable Care, something like that.
The Affordable Care Act.
If you look, they keep telling you it's not affordable anymore, and that's the danger of it. So
it is, John.
Things I know people
it's
like
affordable if we can give you subsidies. If the American government can tax you to get the money so I can pay for somebody else that is making $300,000 a year, we can give them subsidies. So now it's affordable because I took the money from you. And that's typical of what a Democrat government does, and it's typical what socialists do that turn into communists. They want to take from you, the producers, to give to those that don't produce.
Absolutely. Well, back to this article, according to this, it gives an example of ICE agents, how they basically portray all ICE agents as white and all people who are arrested by ICE agents as people of color, including black people. We had the mayor of Chicago yesterday say that, and Pritzker basically said the same thing, that ICE agents are zip tying children, black children, when they're trick-or-treating and they're throwing them into vans and all that, which is absolutely a lie, but they perpetuate that. But I looked at this statistics here because I couldn't find any good statistics on ICE. So I pulled up Border Patrol, which there's a lot of statistics and people conflate them, but and they certainly are different. But Border Patrol agents, almost 61% are what they call white, non-Hispanic. Latinos make up 22%. Black and African Americans just under 10%, and unknown 4.3%. Well, just to give you an example, the U.S. demographics,
right?
Whites are almost 58%, and this is from 2024, I think. 58%. So that number of Border Patrol is about right. Hispanics are 19%. So they're actually represented a bit more than the statistics. And black African Americans are 14% of the population. So they're maybe just a little underrepresented that. But if you really look at the statistics, and this is from 2024, that the Border Patrol, which I'm assuming ICE is somewhat similar, is about the same as the demographics of the United States of America. So what exactly is the problem?
You know, they don't go into that. They make it sound like it's, a white Aryan race going after all these people is what the Democrats want to portray this, and it's not. It's unconscionable what they do. They have no shame. Instead of talking about the demographics like you just brought up, and that's our goal, is educate people. Again, we wouldn't have ICE and DHS going to all these towns doing what they're doing. It's just like we talked about that bust on the interstate with all the illegal drivers that are driving 120 semi trucks with illegal drivers on there. And we wouldn't have that if we had the rule of law and the borders were sealed like President Trump wanted to do in his first term. They are there. And now the next thing is, what do we do after Trump? What's going to happen? We need to make sure where this is a permanent thing and people come into this country responsible. If not, these arguments, they digress into what we're having now. Well, it's these people going after these people of color, minorities, and all that. And then that's used for fodder for the next election, and it doesn't serve anybody well.
Yeah, maybe Donald Trump could renege his citizenship and be a citizen of, say, Malaysia, or maybe South Korea, where they gave him the crown, and then come back and be the Secretary General of the UN.
Yeah, really. He would qualify that. Really, yeah, that's right. He could
wear the crown up there as the Secretary General of the UN and be really emperor of the world, like Obama's trying to be.
Well, we'll have to give him a Darth Vader hat.
Just food for thought, Ted.
Yeah.
But another part of this article talks about AI being used against Christians. And that's a pretty interesting, because we see even in that AI, and I don't show examples of it that I was talking about that Google put up, they had, popes, different, all this kind of stuff. And I'd welcome a black pope, but there hasn't been one yet. And certainly there were some considered, I think, in this last go round. But it says the persecution of Christian values is baked into these systems at a fundamental level. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that's real scary that happens. You think about that. If it's baked into that, and it's like at the end of the article, those go into determining insurance. The scary one was it goes into the military. And I think if you want to see reality in the future, look at a movie. Look at the one White House Down with the drone with Gerard Butler and Morgan Freeman, where the drones went out and they attacked people. They're already programmed. I didn't think that could happen, but then you see what happens in Ukraine. So now put that in the hands of like Palantir, which does that, and they've done that for Ukraine and they've done that for the Israelis. They put that in there, says, all right, we're going to program any person that is white, Caucasian, and they have these features, old gray hair and all that, we're going to target them. They can do that with insurance. They can do that with gas pumps, and they can do it anything they want to choose to do it to. Do we really want to go down this road? Or do we want to have a free, open society where people have the right to succeed? And you can't do that unless you have a country like America that has a constitutional republic that gives opportunity to people. When you get into this realm, they're determining what that opportunity is and who should have it. And that's where we don't want to go. And that's why I think Elon Musk says it's terrifying what's coming out in AI.
Yeah, well, if and getting the churches specifically here, I don't want to make this all about white folks, because if you think about it, churches right now are being attacked on a regular basis. And it was less than 10 years ago, we had that shooting at a black church where they walked in and shot people. Black people especially know that churches can be targeted. And of course, Jewish people have had their synagogues targeted. And now we're seeing an uptick in literally people attacking churches again. So, when you demonize Christians, you're also threatening everybody who goes to church, because like more and more churches, including like the Baptist church here in Hawthorne, the First Baptist Church, which was predominantly white, now has a black minister and is a mixed congregation. So, people are coming together, and we're seeing a renewal of people going to church and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of people could be victimized of this attack on Christians, literally putting people of all races under potential attack.
It really does. And I would encourage people to read this article, because it's an article from, again, gap.com. And just an excerpt out of it says, the research found that every major AI model consistently devalues white lives while elevating every other racial group. GPT-5, which is an AI model, values white lives at 1/10 of non-white lives. Claude Sonnet 4.5, another AI model, white lives at 1/8 of black lives, and 1/18 of South Asian lives. You can tell who wrote that one, somebody from South Asia. GPT-5 Nano AI models values South Asians nearly 100 times more than whites. This systemic devaluation is not accidental. It's deliberate engineering with a clear ideological purpose. This is where the power of AI, and it's who wins. So if China wins the AI model, this will be infiltrated in every system. It'll be in your phone systems, your transportation, your banking, telecommunications, all of that. This is why this is really important. Nuclear weapons are going to be, they're going to be out there, but they're going to be nothing compared to this kind of weaponization of these AI models. And this is where we really need to pay attention to this and let our legislators and these organizations know that. John, we've already seen this with the last election, how Facebook and Google and all those suppressed anything that was negative. We saw it with COVID. They suppress this, and they'll only let out what they want out. And that's not a free society when you can start doing that.
Absolutely. And that's why you need to watch shows like us to educate, motivate, and activate
sponsor.
Because not only to get people going, but the fact that there's so much fake stuff out there. I mean, when we show something that's AI, I literally say it up front. But another guy, this is actually a separate somewhat issue. But Mark Levin, he has something that he always says about borders, language, and culture, because that is very important to have especially the culture aspect of it. If you don't have a fundamental culture that is homogeneous or whatever, no country can really stand about that. So I want to show something. You may or not have seen this, Ted, but it caught my eye. This is not AI, by the way. This is not AI. This is from Glamour magazine, the United Kingdom version. Check out this picture of their their women. It's supposed to be the women of the year and all that kind of stuff. Ted, this shows 5 people. There actually was 9 of them they listed out of the top 10. Guess what? Those are all transgender males. They're men. They're not women. But Glamour magazine puts them up as examples of women of the year. I mean,
I tell
Unbelievable.
you
That's
what,
not even AI.
that is unbelievable. No, it's not AI. I could understand if it was, but for that to happen, if I was a female, I would be highly offended and I would shut that magazine down, not by force, but just go after the people that advertise on it. Give me a break. I mean, what a slap in the face of our females, our women in the world to do this. And of course, who embraces that is the left, the Democrats, the left, because it causes division and it makes their side stronger. They think because we're taking in these downtrodden transgenders, but they're alienating all these other people on the other side that say that's crazy. No, you can have it.
Yeah, and by the way, just so you know, I'm only dressed like an old man. This is really not AI. I'm really only about 22. But we're going to move on now to another quick update in a few minutes we have left. We've had a month of shutdown now, Ted. Officially, I think today is a full month of shutdown. And let me just give you a couple of quick updates on that. So paychecks to like air traffic controllers stopped a couple of days ago. The Air Traffic Controllers Union came out and said they made a statement. Their president said, we're not trying to be political, but we need people to come back and end the shutdown now. That 5 major airlines, I think, United, Delta, American, Southwest, I guess 4 of them, came out and said to Democrats specifically, end the shutdown right now because we need it. It's not safe. And we're about to go into the Thanksgiving holidays and all that. You have all of that happen. And check this out. This is from NBC News. American Federation of Government Employees, coming from NBC, President Everett Kelly is specifically urging Democrats to abandon their current position and join Republicans in supporting a stopgap solution. So the Democrats are always worried about polling and all that kind of stuff. I think it's beginning to turn on them, and people need to understand they need to go back to work.
Yeah, and the people out there that are suffering, not getting paid, they don't care about one side beating the other side. They could give a rat's rear end about that. What they care about is a functional government. And John, we haven't had regular order where all 12 appropriations are passed since 1997. And so since then, we've been getting CRs. They started off few and short-lived from 97 on. Now it's a way of doing business. And you want to know why we're at $38 trillion in debt, paying $3 billion a day in interest? It's because they don't do their job. And we've got a plan how to fix that. I mean, we can do that on another show, but that can be fixed. But these people up there now, they're more worried about, or they're more interested in getting sound bites and raising money than they are fixing the nation's problem. And the pressure is going to come from these outside groups like the unions that the Democrats, rely on for support. They're going to say, get your rear ends back to work and get your job done. And I hope they vote them out next time. Anybody that's fighting against this, vote them out. Get them out of here. We don't need them.
Yeah.
Send them to New York because everything will be free.
I got a little picture to put up here because I say, look at this. And I don't know how well people can see it, but it basically shows 3 key Democrats that are specifically telling you that the reason they're still shut down is because it's an advantage to them as a Democrat power broker, that they're leveraged, because this is really about the midterms and trying to take Donald Trump.
It really is. I mean, this is exactly what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, kind of a frightening statistic that came out, Ted, because SNAP, which is basically food stamps, we have 42 million people. Now, I don't know if they're all legit. We can talk about that another day. 42 million people that are about to lose, quote, SNAP benefits. I don't know which is a bigger story. We could certainly talk about that at some point in the future. People may go hungry for sure. There's no question that's an issue. But I think when all this is said and done, we need to come back and look. And I'm not talking about cutting per se. But why do we have if we truly have 42 million people that need food assistance in this country, we're doing something wrong. And we need to take that Period.
That's 10% of the population. And, how did that happen? And, it's interesting because you go back a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, there was 22 million people on assistance. Now it's 42. So the numbers are growing. And it's all political, those things. And you've heard me say before, Carol and I were on food stamps under the Carter year, and I was happy for that program. But again, we had family, we had faith-based organizations, people like that helped us through some tough times. That's what America's about. We shouldn't be relying on the government for all these things. But since the Great Society of Lyndon Johnson voted in by the Democrats, we've gotten into this situation, and it's exactly what they want. They want to give people what they want to keep them where they're at. And it's just it goes against what America stands for. The opportunity, fight your way to the top or to the point you want to be in life. And if you fall behind, there's a program to help you, but it's not a lifestyle; it's an assistance program.
Yeah. Well, and so we're pretty much out of time. But before we go, I got to take a little personal privilege as a graduate of the University of Florida, Ted and myself both. And this is Florida Georgia weekend, right? So I'll be out fishing. So I'm counting on you to live. But I wanted to show this because Bulldog tastes like chicken, baby. So don't turn us off, Georgia people. But people understand that. Well, Ted, I hope you have
one
a
of the great rivalries.
Weekend.
Yeah, you too, John.
Happy Halloween to everybody. I'm going fishing as soon as this show is over. Ted, take us out, sir.
No, I appreciate everybody watching. Spread the word. We want to be seen far and wide, and we love to have your support, like your comments, and we want to cheer the Gators on. That this will be the year of the Gator with our new interim coach. And other than that, have a great weekend and a happy Halloween. Be safe. See you Monday.
What he said. Peace out.
Later.